Hi everyone and welcome to Book Boop. My name is Rachel and today I'm going to be talking about my December TBR, so all the books I'm planning to read in the month of December, hopefully. So I had originally planned my December TBR a while back as well as like my October, November one, and my November TBR was pretty ambitious and I had a lot on there and I didn't end up getting to as many books as I was hoping to. So I actually decided to scale back my December TBR as well because I have a feeling that December I probably won't have as much time to read as well, or probably won't be able to read more necessarily than November. All that aside, I kind of scaled it back a little bit to a number of books that I think I might be able to get to, and I'm really excited about them. They're very like whimsical, magical books, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. There are a couple books from my November TBR that I'm rolling over to my December, so let's go ahead and talk about those. The first, which is one I really want to get to by the end of the year, which is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, not only because I'm borrowing this from a sweet friend of mine, but also because I just heard so much about this book. I've heard it's absolutely incredible. It is an adult book, but it's written in the feel and style of a middle grade, so it's very whimsical and magical and heartwarming, and I'm really excited about it. If you haven't heard about this story before, we are following this gentleman who works for a series of orphanages, and he has been asked to go and check up on this orphanage that's at the Cerulean Sea. At this specific orphanage, it houses several magical children who are potentially dangerous and might bring about the end of the world. So he's supposed to go to this orphanage to kind of see these children, how dangerous they truly are, and also just to see how they're being cared for and all that kind of stuff. And I've heard it's really wonderful and heartwarming and magical, and I can't wait to read it because I love middle grade. And so to have an adult book that's supposed to have a middle grade feel sounds amazing, and it sounds perfect for December. So I'm really excited to get to this. The other one that is completely not a December feeling book, but I want to read it because I want to finish the series before the end of the year, is Tomb of Ancients by Madeleine Roux. This is the third book in the House of Fury series. It is a paranormal, spooky, a little bit of fae lore in there kind of story, and I am somewhat enjoying it. I loved the first book so much. It had so many wonderful paranormal ghosty vibes. It takes place in this old manor. It takes place in the 1800s, and it's this old manor that people go to stay at to kind of like recover their health, and just at these like springs that are behind the home, and it's supposed to be sort of this place where rich people will go and relax. The thing is that this house actually calls to people who have done horrible things in their lives, and people that go stay there never come out alive. So it's a really spooky book and spooky series. But the second book took a very different kind of fantastical turn. So I'm interested to see what happens in the third book and to finish it up and just to see where the story goes. I'm really hoping that this one has more of the vibes from the first book than the second, but we shall see. But I'm really wanting to get this done just to know that I finished off this series completely before the end of the year. And unfortunately, I didn't get to read it in November. So I'm excited to just wrap it up and finish it. So let's go ahead and jump into some books that I originally have on my December TBR, kind of the fun, whimsical ones that I'm really excited about. And this one sounds so amazing. It's the second book in a series, and it's called A Tale of Witchcraft by Colfer. If you've never heard of Chris Colfer before, he wrote the Land of Stories series, which is a middle grade series that is a massive mashup of all the classic fairy tales. And this series that he has created, which is the Tale of Magic series, I guess that's what it's called. This is the second book in the series, and it's basically a prequel to the Land of Stories. We're learning about a lot of the characters that are a lot older and adults. We're kind of learning how the fairies kind of came to be and their magic and fairy godmother and all those sorts of things. So I read the first book a few months back and I absolutely loved it. It was so magical. It reminded me how much I love Chris Colfer's writing and how just like how intricate and how much emotion and passion he puts into these stories. And I'm really excited to continue this series. So this is the second book. I can't really say what the second book's about because spoilers, but like I said in the first book, it's basically a prequel. We learn a lot about the origin of fairy godmother and things like that. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun to continue on the series. I think it's going to be perfectly magical for December to get me in that wonderful Christmas spirit. So after that, let's go ahead and see what's next. So, oh yes, another book that I think is going to be extremely magical. I read this first book a few months back as well, and it was one of the most cozy books I've ever read. So this is the second book in the series, and it is Pages & Co. Tilly and the Lost Fairy Tales by Anna James. The first book in this series was so stinking cozy. We were following this girl named Tilly who lives in London. She lives with her grandparents, and her grandparents own this, I think it's a 3 or 5 story bookstore. And it's this bookstore that's crammed with new and used books, as well as a little cafe coffee shop, several fireplaces, cozy nooks to sit in. It sounds like the most fantastic place. Most of the time it was raining, so it's like raining cozy outside, fire going, reading, coffee, pastries. It's just like, But the cool thing, magical thing about this story is that Tilly finds out that she is a book wanderer, which means that not only is she able to pull specific characters from some of her favorite books and interact with them, such as Alice from Alice in Wonderland or Anne from Anne of Green Gables, but she also finds out she's actually able to enter the stories themselves and to kind of like be a part of her favorite stories, which sounds extremely magical and wonderful. I'm really excited to see what happens in this one. I'm assuming since it's called Tilly and the Lost Fairy Tales that maybe she might delve into some more fairy tale stories, which I think is going to be really, really cool. So I'm excited to get into this one and continue on this series. This is the second book. I believe 3 of the books are out now. I'm not sure how many there are in the series or going to be, but it just sounds cozy and magical again, and I can't wait to jump into it. I think it's going to be so fantastic, so I'm really pumped about it. All right, next is one that I think is going to be perfect for December because it's actually supposed to take place over Christmas, and that is Green Glass House by Kate Milford. What I know about this book is it kind of follows this green glass house that is supposed to be a bed and breakfast, I believe, or an inn, and this inn specifically takes in, I think, thieves. And thieves come, and it's kind of like a place they're able to be safe. There's also kind of like this pact there that like you don't do any thieving while you're there. It's like a safe zone for people to come stay. Christmas is coming up, and so far no one is booked to come and stay there. So it's going to look like a very cozy, very calm Christmas until several people show up to stay there, and I think originally they kind of say they don't know each other, but then you find out that they're all somehow interconnected. So there's a mystery aspect to it, but I've heard this has a fantastic, like, cozy Christmas atmosphere. Think about cozying out next to fire with some hot chocolate and marshmallows. It's got that kind of feel to it. So I think it's going to be absolutely perfect middle grade for December. I'm very excited about it. I've heard a lot about this book, and so I'm excited to see what all the hype is about. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, I got 2 more for you. This one definitely is the ultimate Christmas vibes. I've actually never heard of this book before until I heard it from a friend of mine, and it is Letters from Father Christmas by J.R.R. Tolkien. So this specific book is a collection of letters that Tolkien wrote to his children, being Santa Claus. So he wrote these letters to his children, and this is the collection of them. And it sounds wonderfully Christmassy and magical. I love the idea of him showing this love to his children, of writing these letters from Santa Claus. And I think it's going to be really, really fun. I can't believe I'd never heard about this before. And I think it's really going to help me get into that Christmas spirit. And just look at that cover. It's just so snowy and lovely and wonderful. And I love it so much. All right, the last one is a book that I have put off reading for the longest time. It's a whole series. I think it's several books, but I've really been wanting to read it. I've heard it's so good. And it is the middle grade series of Peter and the Starcatchers by Dave Barry and Ridley Pearson. I believe this Dave Barry, I believe it was actually the descendant of the original Barry who wrote the original Peter Pan story. I am really excited about this series. I don't know much about it. I don't know if it's supposed to be a continuation after Peter Pan or a retelling or what, but I think it's going to be really lovely and magical. I know it's several books long. I've been really wanting to get into it, but kind of been daunted by it because it's so many books, but I think it's going to be the perfect time to jump into it before the end of the year, and then hopefully be able to read more of these next year and finish up the series in 2021. For some reason, Peter Pan makes me think of Christmas. It makes me think of like the holidays and that kind of Christmassy feel. So for some reason, I feel like this is a really great time to jump into this series and kind of get that magical Peter Pan vibe. I think it's going to be fantastic. So those are all the books I'm planning to read in December. A lot of middle grades here, which I think is going to be perfect for that time of year, because December can be kind of stressful, doing all the Christmas shopping and hoping that you don't get sick and hoping that you're going to be able to gather with your family and like work for me gets a little bit crazy in December. So I think the idea of reading a lot of really magical, whimsical middle grades is going to be very relaxing. I think it's going to be a great time. I really hope I can get to all of these. This still might be too much of a TBR for me. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to try to get through as many of them as I can. Let me know down below if there are any of these books that you have read and what you think about them, or let me know what you're planning to read in December or what you're most excited to read in December. I think it's going to be a really fun, magical reading month and super extra cozy. On this side of the video over here is my logo. If you click on that, you can subscribe to my channel, follow me on my book journey. On this side over here is a suggestion for another video if you want to watch another one right now. But thank you so much for watching. You rock, and don't forget to keep reading. Bye!